It's no secret that privacy is a commodity these days. From the scandals that surround Facebook to WikiLeaks, it's obvious that most people are being monitored without their consent on a daily basis. But it's easy to become complacent with the technology we use and the information we provide without a second thought. But this is not always wise. Today we're exploring 10 ways the government watches you. Prism is the codename for a program that the United States government uses to collect internet data from citizens. It was launched in 2007 under the Bush administration with the passage of the Protect America Act. Documents indicate that Prism is the #1 source of raw intelligence used for NSA analytic reports. U.S. government officials have disputed ongoing criticism and have defended the program by asserting it cannot be used on domestic targets without a warrant, that it has helped to prevent acts of terrorism, and that it receives independent oversight from the federal government's executive, judicial, and legislative branches. But privacy advocates are still nervous. It is proven that the government has direct access to servers from companies like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. To some, this seems innocuous, but to others it feels extremely invasive. The details of Prism were leaked by Edward Snowden in 2013. While many citizens were shocked that the government collected huge volumes of data, no substantial legislative changes have been made since the Prism was revealed. Several high-ranking officials have insisted that the program is only used to weed out potential terror suspects, but there is no way to verify what goes on behind the scenes. One of the National Security Agency's most powerful tools of mass surveillance makes tracking someone's internet usage as easy as entering an email address and provides no built-in technology to prevent abuse. The NSA's XKeyscore program, first revealed by The Guardian, sweeps up countless people's internet searches, emails, documents, usernames and passwords, and other private communications. XKeyscore is fed a constant flow of internet traffic from fiber optic cables that make up the backbone of the world's communication network. As of 2008, the surveillance system boasted approximately 150 field sites in the United States, Mexico, Brazil, United Kingdom, Spain, Russia, Nigeria, Somalia, Pakistan, Japan, and Australia, as well as many other countries, consisting of over 700 servers. According to a 2009 document, some field sites received over 20 terabytes of data per day. This is the equivalent of 5.7 million songs, or over 13,000 full-length films. Many are critical of this program because of how unsophisticated it is. The NSA accesses the data using a standard browser like Firefox or Chrome, and the system is entirely susceptible to hacking, making all of this data vulnerable. Here's one which might make more sense in the context of our daily lives. The New York Civil Liberties Union revealed in 2015 that the state of New York was storing the data of all participants in their E-ZPass system. The only surprising thing is that information was not just recorded at toll booths. There were stations set up all over the state, seemingly with no purpose other than surveillance. The surveillance sites are referred to as Stingrays. Stingray is the commonly used term for a cell site simulator, a briefcase-sized surveillance device that allows the police to spy on cell phones in the area by mimicking a cell phone tower. Stingrays allow the police to pinpoint and track a person's location, collect the phone numbers that a person has been texting and calling, and in some configurations intercept the contents of communications. Though the story broke in New York, the ACLU has identified 75 agencies in 27 states in the District of Columbia that own Stingrays. But many agencies continue to shroud their purchase and use of Stingrays in secrecy. Toll collectors are also unveiling a wide array of license plate readers in sites far from any designated toll collection site, prompting the question, what are these sites attempting to monitor? A biometric is a way to identify someone based on physical characteristics, fingerprints, DNA, retinas, voice, face, or even gait, among others. These simple measurements add up to an extraordinary threat to privacy when they are collected, analyzed, and stored in readily searchable databases. Edward Snowden revealed that in 2 years alone, the NSA has collected webcam footage from almost 2 million citizens. Yes, in case you didn't know, the government can remotely access your webcam and monitor you from your own computer. And they are capturing your personal moments as well. 11% of the data was flagged as containing nudity. And bear in mind, this was only between 2008 and 2010. In the decades since, millions of hours of video have been recorded and sit in anonymous government servers. This data can be used to identify citizens in public using surveillance cameras. Like something out of a science fiction movie, users can also be identified with their fingerprints and other data that they volunteer to tech companies. Though this data is encrypted, the government has been able to exploit fully encrypted data in the past. A 2010 memo describing a briefing about the NSA for the United Kingdom's Government Communications Headquarters mentions, cryptanalytic capabilities are now coming online. Vast amounts of encrypted internet data, which have up until now been discarded, are now exploitable. It's no secret that our smartphones are monitoring us every minute of every day. Most sensible people know to cover their cameras with tape when they're not being used. But the reality is our smartphones monitor much more than our internet usage. Most apps and even malevolent third-party sources can access both the front and back cameras, upload pictures without your permission, run facial recognition, detect if you're alone, and live stream your camera on the internet. We found that thousands of popular apps have the ability to record your screen and anything you type, David Chaffness told Tech Explorer. That includes your username and password, because it can record the characters you type before they turn into those little black dots. Using something as simple as a PDF file, hackers and the government alike can gain total control of your phone or computer. While it sounds like a dystopian future, all of these things are happening around us every day. A recent study from Northeastern monitored more than 17,000 apps on Android phones and concluded that many were actively sending and receiving photos and videos from users' phones, even while the app was not in use. For the most part, this data is simply turned into valuable market data, but in the wrong hands, it could be deadly. A Reconnaissance satellite or intelligence satellite is an Earth observation satellite deployed for military or intelligence applications. They've been in common use for many decades, but most information exists up until the 1970s, after which they were classified in response to the Cold War. Although a number of nations have launched spy satellites, the US and the Soviet Union are responsible for by far the greatest number. The Russian Federation, which inherited most of the Soviet Union's space system after 1991, has been unable to afford the cost of adequately updating its spy satellite network. In contrast, the US has continued to deploy ever more sophisticated systems in a steady stream. Thus, the majority of spy satellites in orbit today, including all of the most capable units, are US-owned. There are now an estimated 8,000 satellites circling the Earth, many of which have super powerful cameras that can monitor anything on the ground. Not only are these secretive devices unnerving for US citizens, they're also susceptible to hacking by geopolitical enemies like China and Russia. Though little is known about reconnaissance satellites, it's clear that they could be dangerous if they were misused. This is another trope that seems like it's right out of a spy movie. Bugging is a reality of law enforcement today. The Drug Enforcement Administration and other agencies regularly sell bugged phones to known criminals, holding onto the encryption key so they can continue to access their data for years in the future. That revelation is detailed in a new report from Human Rights Watch, along with a 2015 email that shows the DEA had expressed interest in using smartphone malware from Italian company Hacking Team to spy on multiple suspects' locations. Together, they illustrate a potentially chilling practice on the part of the US government to preemptively plant spy devices on suspects. They also shed light on actions by federal law enforcement that aren't necessarily illegal but do test the boundaries of surveillance and potentially subject non-targets to federal snooping. This becomes a legal gray area because the officials do not receive consent from a court before they sell the bugged phone. Normally, it would require a judge's approval, much like a search warrant. However, the evidence gathered using this method has held up in court, and many fear that the government will become bolder in its bugging practices. In 2016, the National Security Agency collected more than 151 million records about Americans' phone calls, despite Congress passing a law the previous year, the USA Freedom Act, intended to curb bulk surveillance. These records are comprised of metadata about calls, which includes time, duration, and the numbers of both recipient and caller, and their collection was revealed in an annual transparency report published on Tuesday by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The report is the first assessment the public has seen of the impact of the USA Freedom Act and shows the difficulty the NSA has reining in surveillance while continuing to collect useful intelligence. This Freedom Act was passed in 2015 after the Snowden revelations and limits the NSA to collecting call metadata about individuals suspected of having ties to terrorism. The report shows that in 2016, the NSA received warrants to collect such information on only 46 terrorism suspects. What accounts for the other 151 million records? The NSA has been characteristically silent on the matter, though the program is now officially shut down. This isn't just a cliche from spy movies. Law enforcement really does use unmarked vans for surveillance. A state judge has ordered the New York City Police Department to release records on a secretive program that uses unmarked vans equipped with Xray machines to detect bombs. The ruling follows a nearly 3-year legal battle by ProPublica, which had requested police reports, training materials, contracts, and any health and safety tests on the vans under the state's Freedom of Information law. The New York Police Commissioner was silent on the matter and refused to answer how often cops bombard places, vehicles, or people with radiation, or if there are health risks for residents. The official policy of the NYPD is that the vans are not used to scan people for weapons. Rather, the intent is to monitor dangerous individuals and their homes. But as with any misunderstood technology, people are wary of those answers. The Xray vans at issue are essentially a version of older airport body scanners mounted on a truck. Only 3 years ago, airline passengers routinely went through X-ray machines known as backscatters at major airports, such as Los Angeles International, New York's John F. Kennedy, and Chicago's O'Hare. But citing privacy concerns, the TSA removed body scanners that emit X-rays and replaced them with machines that use technology that is considered less invasive and safer. But X-ray vans continue to be used by law enforcement agencies. It's no secret that smart appliances can be extremely convenient. Whether we use them to play a song remotely or turn out the lights from another room, they can save us valuable time during our day. But they also represent a huge tool for law enforcement. Any device connected to the internet, meaning the vast majority, can be infiltrated and used to incriminate a suspect. For instance, a 2016 Arkansas murder case was determined through audio claimed from an Amazon Echo device at the scene of the crime. But the fact is, this is actually not a new revelation in the world of surveillance. The police have been using these kinds of records since around 2000. Using services like SiriusXM and OnStar, the cops have been triangulating the location of suspects for many years. In fact, these services can be used to continually monitor an individual's location without a warrant. Unless you drive a clunker with no bells and whistles, chances are your car is susceptible to car tapping.